The Boston Marathon, presented by Bank of America, has thousands of runners running for thousands of reasons.
I'm running to raise money for Achilles International, so amputee athletes can keep running too.
For every mother counts, because all women deserve access to quality maternity care.
For St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, and every kid with cancer who just wants to be a kid again.
Join Bank of America in supporting this year's runners. Give if you can at BofA.com/help-a-cause. References to charitable organizations is not endorsement by Bank of America Corporation. Copyright 2024.
John!
What?
Red 7!
I don't know what Red 7 means.
Hot route!
I don't. What is hot route?
Will you just go stand on the other side, please?
Down! Come on. Ready, down, set, hut, 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 hut!
Hit me! Booyah! That's what we call a sack lunch. Nom, 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 nom.
It's time for the Soonerscoop.com postgame show presented by Eskridge Lexus in Oklahoma City. Eskridge Lexus is the official travel partner of Soonerscoop.com podcasts. Now, here's your road crew, Carrie, Eddie, and Bob, wrapping up all the action and reaction from this week's game.
Welcome to the Eskridge Lexus Postgame show where we are very angry. Oh, we're so angry. Actually, it's the day after we've kind of, we've dealt with Twitter and the boards and we've seen enough anger. We're here to, I don't know what we're here to do. We're joined by Eddie and Bob, who are still stuck in Atlanta. I'm sorry that I made you stay an extra day because I'm cheap. But I guess
I thought about just getting a rental car today and just driving. I have seriously given thought to that.
Josh and I have done that before. We got stuck overnight in Memphis, and we were like, screw it. And, Eddie knows this from back in the day. I am quite the control freak. I used to be quite the control freak, so I drove the entire way while Josh slept. That's the story of my early Sooner Scoop life. Eddie sleeps as we drive from state to state. Josh slept as we drove from Memphis one night.
All I'm saying is if we left right now, we could be home by 1 a.m.
We could do it.
If you want to do it, go ahead.
Put some numbers together real quick. This is the we hope you are going to listen to this podcast and you haven't killed yourself podcast.
Yeah, or just we hope you listen at all, because a lot of people probably won't, because they're done, at least for now. I think, it was it was a 3:00 start. The game was so long, like halftime seemed like it took forever to get to halftime. I think I went through all the stages of, grief or whatever it is, like it during that game. I think I got over it completely before it was even done.
No, I don't think there's any doubt about that. I literally remember thinking at one point, like, my God, I can't believe this is still happening. And I looked up, and there was 10 minutes left in the second quarter.
Mm-hmm. That's how quickly.
Like I remember thinking, like, my God, this game has been going on for 3 hours. And I looked up, and there was more than half of the second quarter to be played.
It takes a lot of time to score that many touchdowns. It really does.
My God.
The celebrating and then the replays and, the timeouts that come after the extra point. I mean, it takes a lot. It was over 2 hours that first half.
No doubt. And, I think the fan base right now, that one seemed different than in years past. That was just more of a kind of a reminder that, Oklahoma, all these Big 12 championships are good and everything, but something has to change down there or they're going to continue kind of being the laughingstock of college football. I mean, and it's hard to deflect from that, isn't it? They are. It is what it is.
Like, you saw the Buckeyes make that leap. Because I thought Ohio State, OU were sort of in that same realm the last couple of years. They could win their conference, but when they got to the playoff, they couldn't do much. We've seen what the Buckeyes can do. Now it's up to the Sooners to do it. And, you like to say it starts in the trenches. I think it starts in the secondary, and then it starts with Grinch getting his guys in, and we'll actually have a story about that later this week about how important that Wednesday of signing day was with getting Joshua Eaton, Justin Harrington, and Kendall Dennis all within a span of a few hours, because Grinch tried to make it work with the guys on campus. He did everything he possibly could, but for the majority, or not, maybe that's going too harsh. For some of them, you know full well last night might be the last meaningful time that they see, or it might even be their last game on campus if they decide to go the portal route.
Well, and I don't want to get too big picture too early here, because I did want to talk about a little bit about what happened on the field.
Why?
Well, because I think it's important, just because it does kind of explain what you're talking about. Like, people want to sit here and say, look, we all thought that Oklahoma was closing the gap. We saw the defense this year. We're like, yes, that defense is better. They're making progress. And for those of you that want to just say, "Oh, it was a mirage," it has gotten better. But I know the tantrums on Twitter are not going to stop over this, but it's not something that you just completely throw away and say, "Oh, we're all the way back where we started." No, you are better than where you were at the start of the season. You have Alex Grinch as your coach. You have good talent coming in. The problem is what I said before the game, like, Delarian Turner-Yell was a bigger loss than anyone else because you didn't have any depth at the safety. And let's face it, reason number one why they got their heads kicked in yesterday was Delarian Turner-Yell's backup and Justin Broiles. And I hate saying that because he's a super sweet kid. He's always been, really good to us. But the guy can't play football. He's just not – he's a try-hard guy that's not talented enough to be successful at this level against elite competition.
Well, that's the biggest problem, isn't it? That it isn't an effort situation.
No.
It isn't a maybe he could develop into something.
He'll give everything he could possibly give to this program, and he has. He just doesn't have enough of it.
In a sense, you got to respect that, but if you're trying to win national championships, if you're trying to get into that upper echelon of teams, which we saw last night, it is a very distinct difference between the Ohio States and the Clemsons and the LSUs of the world, and even little old Oklahoma that dominates the conference in a manner that's never seen before. You have to have some dudes, and Oklahoma just doesn't have that right now. And I think that's the most frustrating thing for Oklahoma fans, is the fact that it is a resounding reminder you don't have that those guys right now. You are that far away from it. And, Lincoln Riley can say whatever he wants, and he met with reporters this morning and all that, but they're going to continue going against the same kind of mindset in a way that I don't think that this change is going to happen overnight. Josh has said it best on Twitter that we're talking about this defense that Alex Grinch took over. It was literally the worst in the history of Oklahoma football. And for them to be able to just turn it around, and what they did this year is commendable in a way, but it's still so much farther away from what they need to be.
You knew that LSU was going to attack Broiles. You didn't realize it would be almost
to the extent
every single
of it, yeah.
play. Because he led the team with 11 tackles, because they just, wherever he was, like, okay, that's who I got to throw to on this play. And to a certain degree in the second half, that became Woody Washington too. I mean, those guys combined for 21 tackles, but that's not a good thing. That means that LSU did exactly they stuck to their plan, and they executed it the way that they wanted to the entire night.
I'll say this too, beyond talent, Lincoln Riley has got to find a way to have a more disciplined program from top to bottom. And it starts with the suspensions, and then it shows itself on the field with Bookie and what he did in that game. I mean, The ridiculous nature of going after a guy's head while the guy with the ball is to go in the opposite direction of the main goal of the game is to tackle the man with the football.
It was 3rd and 10. It was third and 10.
And the quarterback would pull the ball down and ran. All you had to do was tackle him before he got to 10 yards. And what did you do? You decided, I'm going to go take Clyde Edwards-Hilaire's head off. instead of doing my job. Like, that is so ridiculously undisciplined. I can't. It's one of the worst things I've ever seen on a football field. It's
seeing the replay of it is almost shocking in a way.
Yeah.
Like, why would you do that?
That was my tweet. Like, why did Bookie do that? Like,
he really,
why?
He tried to explain it, and then he stopped. He said it was a football play, and we're like, what does that mean? And then he starts.
He blocked himself.
And he's like, I don't want to talk about it. And he just mentioned how he was apologizing to every single teammate. We did see that with an open locker room that Bookie was going around apologizing.
And he had to do that because he got kicked out of the goddamn game and he couldn't talk to anybody. I mean, look, at one point, you can't apologize for something. At some point, something is so bad, you can't apologize. There's no apologizing for what he did.
Right. Of all the things that I've seen this year, I just it's shocking, Carrie. Like, I don't understand. He blocked himself.
He did.
He took himself out of the play.
He made it so that Burrow got 11 yards. Now, obviously, it didn't matter because there was targeting after, but just based on that play alone, that little move that he made allowed Burrow to get the first down.
It's wild. You're right, though. I mean, and we've kind of seen that all year, haven't we, guys? Just as far as the discipline within this program, you're able to get away with a late hit against South Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody looks at it that way. But you get in these big games, and it kind of it's in a way it's all highlighted. Every play is highlighted in a strange way that you do that kind of shit, and it ends up costing you. And listen, I mean, I mocked the idea that Oklahoma didn't deserve to be on the field with LSU the entire week. I still probably think it's a little crazy, but last night certainly. I couldn't have been any more wrong.
And talk with Alex Grinch, he said as much as they've responded to adversity time and time again, he kind of fell into this trap of believing they would do it. You can't just assume that you're going to do it every single time. And he said once we lost our composure, we honestly never got it back. And he put a lot of it on the coaches.
Well, and you said it.
We didn't know what to do with them.
You said, I think it was you that said it last night, just as far as you look at the guys that weren't out on the field, those are kind of some guys that were the leadership units for their specific position units, as far as Ronnie Perkins and Delaware Turner Yell. And, I mean, Kenneth Murray can say so much, Nev Gallimore can say so much, but, it was a little bit depleted in a way, but then again, it just reemphasizes the depth issues that Oklahoma has on that side of the ball and what they're trying to continue to build. And then you can get into the offense, and I mean, Jesus Christ, where do you want to start? I think that last night was just kind of a culmination, if you will, of the inefficiencies that they had on that side of the football, and it finally caught up with them. They weren't able to really basically do anything, and before you know it, they had dug themselves another huge hole and just completely unable to climb out of it, because they aren't that type of offense this year that you were able to dig yourself a goddamn 21-7, let alone 28-7 or 35-7 or 42-7.
I thought, ultimately what happened as the season unwinded for me is that it became kind of a perfect storm of shit, which, Jalen Hurts could have been more effective in that game yesterday if they would have just been a primarily zone read team and just let him run the zone read and, read Caleb Von Chachon. And, they did a good job with that when they ran it, but that is not Lincoln Riley. That's not what he wants to do. That's not what he that's not his offense. I mean, it's just not. I mean, they're dropping him back so many times, and it's not what he does well. And I'll give it up to him. He did stay in the pocket. I mean, he tried to get the ball downfield, but they were never going to be successful on a regular basis, dropping him back and throwing the football down the field. They just weren't. And it's just like I wasn't like why won't you do the zone read? Like, I just knew that they wouldn't do it. Like, it's just, that's not who Lincoln Riley is. So the matchup of Jalen Hurts with Lincoln Riley, it wasn't a failure, but let's face it, getting back to Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray, and now going to Spencer Rattler most likely, which we haven't talked about yet. That was really interesting. That's what Lincoln Riley needs, and it just ultimately it didn't work. It worked for Jalen Hurts. He was runner-up in the Heisman. I think everybody that watched him was like, wow, like I can't believe that happened. He was runner-up in the Heisman. Like he didn't deserve that, but I can see, why it happened. I mean, they raised his profile. Lincoln Riley raised his profile, but he wasn't ultimately what was going to get OU over the top.
I thought he rolled into a lot of pressure. Did you sense that, Kerry? I thought he just kept rolling
but he's
where...
not the most – he's not – like you watched Trevor Lawrence last night and even Joe Burrow, like they're really good at feeling pressure and stepping out of it or stepping away from it or stepping up into the pocket. Like that's never been Jalen Hurts. He's not real pocket aware when it comes to pressure.
I think the story I'm really debating on writing is that if you think about Hurts, what his biggest contribution to the program is going to be maturing Spencer Rattler, right? On and off the field, getting him ready to become the next guy. Because I don't know if it's very limited with that Netflix show, but that didn't seem like Rattler was ready to take over a program like the Sooners. But after spending a year with Hurts, even though it was just 2 times that we got to talk with Rattler here in the last couple of days, he seemed like a guy that's starting to get it.
Is it the ultimate just kind of fan-ish take to just kind of say, I'm kind of glad it's over with the Hurts thing?
It had to be. Like it had to be. I mean, no, I mean, you're not going anywhere in the long run with Jalen Hurts as your starting quarterback at OU. Maybe at Wisconsin or, he could raise TCU to another level. But at OU, where the expectation is first round, very first pick in the draft, that's not who Jalen Hurts is.
And that's probably a little unfair to him.
No, it is.
I mean, he's stepping into some shoes that were, I don't know if they've had quarterbacks as dynamic as either Baker Mayfield or Kyler Murray, and they just so happen to play in back-to-back years. But at the same time, it never, and maybe because of it was just such a weird fit as far as, and Jalen used the word unprecedented a lot when talking about a situation, but it just never felt right. Does that make sense? I mean, looking back on it, it just never felt right. And I don't know.
It was a little bit of a square peg in a round hole situation.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, well, it's working for the time being, but you just kind of knew that it never, I don't know.
Look, it was a better, look, all you have to do is say it this way. He was a better choice than Austin Kendall would have been. And that's what you were either going to have this year with Austin Kendall or you're going to have with Jalen Hurts. You choose which path you wanted to go down. And the Jalen Hurts was the best path available to Lincoln Riley. He took it. It got him to the college football playoff. It just didn't get you. It didn't get you a national championship.
How
do we want to talk the quarterback thing?
Yeah, let's get into the quarterback thing because I do want to kind of delve into the big picture, and I would love to get Josh's take on this too because we've kind of gone head to head as far as the idea of making the playoff versus not making the playoff. I always say that making the playoff is the right thing, but let's get into the quarterback thing, and then I want to present the idea of what this means for the program as a whole and this whole thing's headed.
Well, I mean, the quarterback thing, I assume you're talking about Spencer Rattler going in for Tanner Mordecai instead of Tanner Mordecai, which you see that.
And the reasoning that Riley brought today.
And Riley gave reasoning for it, which it's a convenient reason to give. Like, does anyone think if Jeremiah Hall, it was Pledger that dropped that fourth down slant, Does anyone really think that Tanner Mordecai would have run into the game as they were picking up that first down? Like on the 30-yard line, their own 30 or something?
It's almost a slap in the face that he would even present that as an idea that we should accept.
Kind of pushed him on it, and he just said, that's not if we only operated on stars, then that's how it would go. But these guys are getting ready to go into a legitimate battle into the spring, and he did mention there will be no looking for a grad transfer, no one and done. That's not at all what will be the story of this off season at quarterback. So it'll just be who matures faster and who takes over. I think we all would agree it's going to be Rattler. And when you look, that screenshot of Tanner Mordecai, when he sees Rattler in the game and he's still on the sideline, I mean, that felt like that's all you need to know.
To be fair, though,
his body was in Atlanta, his mind was in the portal.
Yeah, to be fair, though, Tanner Mordecai is not a guy that has a lot of different I don't think his emotional range is like off the charts. Like, I think he's one of those memes, like you put the same picture 50 times, you're like happy, sad, frustrated.
All right, I'll add this. When the locker room was open, Mordecai was quick to get his bags and get the heck out of there, and we actually did get a chance to talk with Rattler. I don't know if you read more into that, but we could have talked to Tanner, but he was too quick in getting the heck out of there.
Well, I mean,
let me ask you this. Have you seen anything of Tanner Mordecai that suggests he's the guy? Has anybody seen anything? Like, I think I saw him in high school. He is a really great high school football player, but whether it's scrimmages or games, I mean, I've seen him throw some balls where I'm like, wow, that's a nice ball. But I have never seen him just take the team and lead them down the field on a very impressive drive, which, it's probably not fair to judge him on that because he hasn't had a lot of opportunities. But at the same time, I've never been just blown away by what Tanner Mordecai's done when he's come into the game.
No, you look at even the limited times that we've seen them in games, Rattlers look better. And I know that's a very, very small sample size, but still, I mean, come on. What do you think?
I mean, that
really
South
not
Dakota
gonna
game, Tanner Mordecai threw the touchdown to Theo Weiss, I think. Or maybe it was Pledger, and then Rattler threw the touchdown to the other guy.
It's almost irresponsible to even think that Spencer Rattler won't be the guy. You know what I mean?
He's the guy. He is the guy.
In fact, I would even say he needs to be handed the reins during the spring.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go through this entire bullshit stuff during the summer when you say, oh, well, they're both working hard, and then we show up in August, and, well, everybody, you got to give them both a chance.
It was a great competition between Kyler Murray and Austin Kendall. Austin Kendall almost won it.
Nobody's going to believe it. Nobody is going to believe anything Lincoln Riley says about that position in terms of who the starter is if they continue to play this game and to play the charade that Spencer Rattler isn't your quarterback going into 2020.
Well, they're playing the portal game. I mean, he's forced to do it.
But that is just.
Well, then that would be Tanner not being smart enough. Like, this shouldn't keep Tanner here if he doesn't believe he has to get out now. He doesn't have to just do that to appease Riley, stay another year or stay on campus. If he doesn't think Riley be truthful about everything, just take off. He's well within his right to do it.
Well, and, a lot will have to do with what happens with Chandler Morris and his decision. And Josh is in Orlando at the Under Armour stuff right now. But, if Chandler Morris ends up signing with OU in the late period, that takes a little bit of pressure off. But you're still sitting there with two quarterbacks, and Lincoln Riley will probably fight to the death to keep three. I mean, he'd probably, tell both quarterbacks they've won the starting job as long as, until just hope they don't talk to each other. Hoping that, he can keep
reaching
three
a point
if Morris
where
chooses
you're
him.
never going to have a backup quarterback that's a junior that you recruited out of high school. They just won't stay that long.
I mean,
you're kind of always been in that. I mean, I can't. I mean, other than like,
I think
Blake Bell, who switched to tight end. Trevor Knight stayed but then transferred, but he was a starter. I mean, like, guys, I can't remember the last guy that wasn't a walk-on, that was on scholarship, that never won the starting job, that made it to like a junior or senior year.
I'm just trying to rack my brain real quick. I would say that
I guess
problem,
Joey
and I don't even
Halsley
know if
might
it's a
be the
problem.
last.
I don't think that's exclusive to Oklahoma.
It's not, but I mean,
it's as a whole.
But not
across the
like
country.
you have to get used to the fact that if you're not going to have those older guys, that you're only going to have one or two scholarship quarterbacks
In your
heading into the
program at any
spring,
time, yeah.
unless you go through the grad transfer. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
You're never going to – that quarterback room's never going to be 4 or 5 deep now.
Well, and that's the whole thing about people, getting all – that was the whole storyline about how all these quarterbacks, except for one, was a grad transfer in the college football playoff. Like, that's the norm, though. I mean, grad transfers at quarterback, it's not like, the portal. Everybody loves talking about the portal because it's got a name now, when there's always been transfers. I mean, it's always – go back to the very first when Bob Stoops first got here, like, what was it? I think Chase Williams was a quarterback that he signed that – obviously Josh Heupel became the starter, and then I think Jake Seals was in the first spring when Josh Heupel was here. Patrick Fletcher, like those, nobody sticks around as a backup quarterback. I mean, go back to Tommy Grady. I mean, it's just, if you have a highly recruited kid that's a quarterback and he gets beat out by someone, especially someone the same age or younger, they've never stayed around.
Nope.
And the invention of the cool word portal doesn't make it, it's like people are, it's like, wow, this has changed college football. No, it's always been this way.
And I think that a part of that, too, is probably the focus, or not even the focus, but the ability of kids now graduating early from high school, being able to get into college, start their accreditation early, and being able to graduate in 3 years and have a chance to go play somewhere else. Like, I don't fault anybody that if they graduate from a school and they still have eligibility left and they know they're not going to play at, Oklahoma or whatever school they're at, yes, hell yeah, you should go transfer. Isn't that what everybody wants to do? That's why you sign a Division I scholarship, is so you can play football, not so you sit on the sidelines. So I don't have a problem with anybody that does that. I'm not saying that we think that they do. I'm not saying that you guys do either. It just it makes sense, and especially nowadays when there are certain, I guess, rules or I don't even think it's legislation, but certain steps in place to make that allowable to happen.
Look, I mean, what it all boils down to, the discussion that we started was, does that say that Spencer Rattler is your starter because he went in the game ahead of Tanner Mordecai? But I think you guys said this, or somebody said, like, Riley knows how that looks. He's not dumb. Like, he knows he just made a statement without making a statement.
For a guy that literally bends over backwards to
craft an image.
To craft an image and to, everything that they do with that brand at OU. For him to just throw it out there and then be like, oh, well, yeah, it wasn't that big of a deal. Bullshit. And the other part of it, too, is it's bullshit if we go through this entire game again. You know what I mean? Like, as far as if Spencer Rattler isn't named the starting quarterback in the spring, I'm not going to question Lincoln Riley. It's his program. He can do whatever the hell he wants with it, but I would say it's a little unfair to the fan base and maybe even the team.
Well, and this is what it's all about. It's about getting that quarterback, that Heisman caliber quarterback, which they did have with Jalen Hurts. So maybe that's not even the right qualifier, but getting that national championship type quarterback back in the program that can win you that can beat some of the best defenses in college football. I mean, like, what would Baker Mayfield have done against that LSU defense? He probably would have torched them a little bit in the secondary. I mean, I didn't think that their secondary was as good as they were made out to be. Like, I didn't notice. Did you guys feel like you really didn't notice Delpit, what's his name?
Delpit
at all in that game?
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember hearing his name called at all.
He didn't really need to do all
They didn't
lot.
look to Morris or Vasquez. Like, they tried to go out on the edge just a couple times. Like,
pretty much the whole passing offense
like nobody's needed.
Was if Jalen Hurts could get CeeDee Lamb one-on-one, he was going to chunk it down the field.
Yeah, and when you go 3 and out every time, I mean, I thought it went from 7-7 to 28-7 so fast that it was almost like, has Oklahoma had the ball this entire time? Like, have they been running?
And then it goes 28-7, and that's when the interception happens, and it's 35-7.
Which is just
even blink.
It was an awful throw.
You know, one guy who's really
there's no other way to say it. It was an awful throw.
One guy that's really escaped the criticism that probably had almost as bad a day as Justin Broiles had was R.J. Proctor.
R.J. Proctor.
Yep.
Yeah.
He was awful.
And I think that probably highlighted, it highlighted what we knew was going to be an issue for a while.
We were just waiting for
that left tackle position.
Yeah.
It was a matter of who was going to be out on the field when it happened. And, the entire thing. Let me ask you, somebody asked me this last night, and I truly had no idea which way to go. What would Landry Jones have done against LSU?
Fumbled it about 4 times, threw 3 more picks.
That much worse?
Well, I'm exaggerating.
Yeah.
But he definitely would have fumbled twice deep in his own territory.
That's probably true.
It would have looked a lot like that OSU game in 2011.
That's probably fair. Okay.
Yeah, I think there was a point.
Was someone actually trying to argue like that Landry Jones would have won that game if he was a quarterback? Was it Al Ashback?
It might have been closer.
I
think he would have given him a better ability. I don't know if I believe it, but I think he would have given him a better ability to throw the ball downfield. I guess
Who are
in a
these
way,
people coming up with Landry Jones dream scenarios? Who's doing that? I want to know who's doing that. Is it you, Eddie? Like,
no.
How are you spending your life if you're saying, what would Landry Jones have done in this? Like, who gives a shit? Say Baker. What would Baker Mayfield? What would Kyler Murray? What would Sam Bradford? Not Landry Jones. My God.
I have sick friends, Carrie, okay?
Is this like in a text group?
Yeah. So, in fact, I would even say...
Did anyone call him on this like I'm doing right now?
No, I thought it was kind of interesting.
Obviously,
I think in a way, like I think in a way I have this like kind of, I don't know, a deep-rooted hatred. It's definitely not a hatred thing. I couldn't dislike Jalen Hurts more, and I can finally say it.
Okay.
Do you think he's a phony?
I don't think he's a phony as much as I think he kind of patted Oklahoma fans, media, and maybe even teammates just on the head a little bit the entire year. Like, I'm here to save you.
When you read the Ivan Mizell piece about, like, Michael Jordan doesn't introduce him, like, that Michael Jordan's here.
It's like, you kind of fucking suck, man. Like, I know that you had a great year.
Michael Jordan wasn't benched in the NBA Finals.
You're a college football legend. I understand that. You're going to have a place in this game for a long, long time. But let's not act like he's Kyler Murray or Baker Mayfield.
Yeah,
I don't think he's anywhere close to those guys.
It is really strange,
is that really unfair? Like, is that me kind of being a little bitch to say that now?
Maybe, but it's not wrong. I mean, I don't understand the reverence that people from the SEC hold for him.
And they still did throughout this entire week. Like, you wouldn't believe it. I mean, the narrative was still, man, Jalen Hurts really helped you guys get into the playoff, huh?
Yeah.
No.
And it couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah, he was carried to the playoff. Really by a defense that completely let him down yesterday.
It definitely looks like sour grapes now, and it's easy to say that now that he's gone.
It's just that we know what
the guy again.
We know what elite quarterback play looks like, and he's nowhere near the quarterback that Kyler Murray is as a runner or a thrower. Like, Kyler Murray is better at both than he is. The only thing he has on Kyler Murray is size. But look, we watched him for an entire year. He does not get through his progressions well. He doesn't keep his eyes down the field when things get, when the pocket starts to collapse. He leaves the pocket too early. He is a very strong runner, but I wouldn't say that he's an explosive athlete, not on the level that Kyler Murray is.
Correct. Like, he can get you 5, 6, 7 yards, but he can't get you 30 or 40. He's not going to pop that big one.
He has limitations.
Yeah. I don't know. It was kind of weird. It was something that I don't want to say like stewed in me or anything like that all year, but it's just like, man, you needed OU more than they needed you.
No, I think that's a good way of saying it. There's no doubt. I mean, his options were Maryland and Miami. Prime 112.
Kind of tells you everything that you need to know, doesn't it?
I think quarterbacks are overvalued more than any other position, and they're also, and they're justifiably so, because they make a huge difference.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there's no doubt that the two teams that are playing for the national championship have the two best quarterbacks in the country.
But, back to, Lincoln in this morning and kind of what he said with the beat writers, I do think, and I said this before the game, like, if they somehow won this game, and by the way, I should apologize. I should just get this out of the way. I gave OU way too much hope and credit for even being able to win this game. I sort of shit on LSU's defense. Their defense was great. They have the biggest defensive line I think I've seen in 10 years, maybe longer. They're just, every one of those guys is like 400 pounds. It's ridiculous.
They have like 9 Ronnie Perkins, and OU has a Ronnie Perkins, and he didn't even suit up.
Well, they have Ronnie Perkins, who just does nothing but eats. They had like 4 of those. But no, I thought OU would play this game close. I thought that they would be in it. I didn't think that they would win it, but I thought that they would make a game of it and come out, and then you say, okay, well, it's pretty obvious OU deserved to be there, and they made all these people look stupid. They didn't do any of that. They became the laughingstock. That's the thing about it. Like, you have become a joke. On Twitter all night last night, you were the punchline.
They were the punchline until the second half of the Buckeyes Clemson, because then everyone was.
It's not going away either. You're not going to change it overnight. You're not going to be able to just wake up in a week when the calendar turns to 2020 and it goes away. This is something that's going to be there for a long, long time until you change it.
And that's what Grinch said. You need to have maturity about yourself. To not let this carry over into the spring, into 2020. It's up to you, because it could. Because this is a lasting impression. You talk about all the improvements they made throughout the year. This is what people are going to remember about OU. This wasn't the way I phrased it. It was like the Buddy Hield Final Four team. That team didn't deserve to have the worst Final Four loss in the history of basketball. They don't. They weren't that bad. And this OU defense didn't deserve to give up 63 points and set the record for most points allowed in a bowl game against the Sooners. But that's just the way it happened. And now those guys have got to figure it out and put it behind them, and not necessarily just say, hey, we did a lot of good things, so Saturday doesn't matter, but be able to put it in proper context and be ready to roll for the spring.
And by the way, not only that, but salt in the wound, we still don't know how long Ronnie Perkins is suspended next year.
Yeah, Lincoln was very ambiguous about that. You sort of figured he would be, but he just said the appeal process is still going on. But if it's 5 games, that includes Tennessee. That includes going to Army. That's home game against Baylor, and then ends with Texas. We've said ever since that schedule was released, it was so front heavy, and that the last month of the season might not give OU a college football playoff push if they need it. Now we know that front schedule being so heavy might mean that they're without Stevenson, Bridges, and Perkins too.
And just how awful that is for someone like Trajan Bridges, who basically was supposed to be using this year as a warm-up for next year, and then you're going to miss half of it. I mean, my God.
God, it has to suck that, and I'm sure that he wishes it was in a different circumstance, but to watch Jaden Hazelwood and Theo Weiss and Drake Stoops catching balls in a college football, I guess Theo didn't have a catch, but playing in a college football playoff game when he's sitting over there knowing that he's basically going to have to miss half of a season because of a stupid rule and a stupid mistake on his part.
And I wonder what they do in terms of Perkins. Do they try to move Redmond or Benito or Guebu? Do they do anything different? Obviously, they couldn't do anything in these last 2 weeks to try to make them into what Perkins had been. But now that you have a winter and a spring, is some sort of movement going to be in the works to try to replicate what Perkins has brought to the table?
Well, what's going to be interesting about next year is you're probably going to be better in the secondary, but the one area you were pretty good at, defensive line, you're going to be rebuilding there. And you're going to have JUCO guys, so maybe it'll be a smooth transition, but there's still no guarantees that you're going to be kind of the tackle for loss team that you were this year up front.
Oh, yeah. And then we've talked about it multiple times. Then when Kenneth Murray goes down, and it's Brian Meade coming into the game. I mean, that's just the reality of that Mike situation. And we've all, I think, we sort of agree that we believe Deshaun White moves over, Caleb Kelly starts at will, and that solves it. But, I mean, the depth there is scary too.
By the way, you know how bad that was yesterday that they were down so many people? Did you notice how many times Deshaun White had to cover a receiver on the numbers?
Caleb Kelly and Deshaun White were in coverage way too much.
Whoa. I mean,
that's
was
what they had to do.
And that's what happens when Bookie gets ejected. I mean, it was just, it was embarrassing.
Well, that even like, and I know we certainly don't need to rehash it, but that just shows you how just moronic that was by Bookie to do what he did, knowing that you can't, and I'm sure he's not thinking about it on the fly, but to make that type of mistake, knowing that you're already down a couple bodies back there, is just almost so immature and so elementary. It's almost like you might just need to take a scholarship away.
I said this
For
last
someone
night.
She's so level-headed.
I'm not saying they should.
I said this yesterday, and I still feel it today. Like, once Trey Norwood is healthy, I don't think Bookie should ever be a starter again. Like, that's how I feel. That's how dumb I think it was. Like, once you get Trey Norwood back, as long as he's healthy, if he's your nickel, I'll be happy to put Bookie over there on the bench and only let him play as a backup from here on forward. After seeing that, it was so stupid. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah, it was terrible.
I'm not going as far as taking the scholarship away, but take playing time away. I'm definitely down for that.
I think that's okay.
I wonder if I'll feel that way in the spring. I mean, it's usually not like me to hold on to something like that for 24 hours.
Well, it's just, I mean, it's so ignorant. I just can't believe that. It's almost like he backtracked.
Yeah.
Maybe he was on the take.
Well, God damn it. I need to know these things.
I mean, it does. Wild. It makes you think he was on the take. Maybe they need to launch an investigation.
Gary, I've been working for you guys for 10 years. That was probably the most unenjoyable Oklahoma game I've ever been at.
Yes.
It was a lot like
Absolutely.
It was a lot like watching the half of the Texas Tech game where Pat Mahomes was on offense without Baker Mayfield. It was like watching that game if Baker Mayfield was not on your quarterback. Because that's what it felt like. I mean, literally that game slapped OU's defense back 2 years into the past.
Yeah. It you say Tech game, it was I'll throw in it was a mixture of the Texas game, 2016, when they're giving up like the 3rd and 18 was like, oh my God. They just went down to the corner and bought more crack. They're doing it again. Were you surprised that they couldn't generate, or were you surprised that they just stayed in the three-man front the entire night and didn't try and generate any type of pressure? Or was that just because they didn't trust the guys on the back end if they took somebody away?
Yeah, they just they couldn't. I mean, that's a thing that Joe Brady did that was genius, is he continued to get Justin Broiles in one-on-one situations.
Yes, he did.
And credit to them. I mean, that's why he's so good. He attacked what Oklahoma couldn't defend.
It's like the scene in The Water Boy with the onside kick. Where's my bitch? Where's my bitch? Oh, there he is.
Yeah. And I know that it seems like we're really coming down on the guy, but it's hard not to.
I mean, you cannot. They just
attacked him the entire. He's just.
I mean, we prefaced it. He would. I think he would die for OU. I think he would lay down his life for OU. He cares about this team and this program. He's got a good family. He can't play football at OU anymore. He just can't. You can't let him play football at OU. He's not good enough.
It's almost, in a way, a little unfair that he was asked to do that. And I know that kind of sounds weird in a way, but it's like, what else were you expecting to happen?
What?
There was, Carrie, we said it time and time again on the unofficial 40 throughout the year. We said it on the boards when people would ask, why aren't they rotating at safety? Alex Grinch wants to rotate at safety.
Yeah.
He didn't trust those guys enough, and that's why.
You saw
I mean,
last night why. Alex Grinch was correct to never let anyone else play. Now, I think I saw some good things out of Woody Washington. I mean, the touchdown he gave up
into that
was the perfect pass. I mean, you could not have thrown a better pass. And his coverage was fine. I mean, the only thing he didn't do was, rip his hands through his arm, trying to get the ball out. But, he caught the ball. He was in the end zone. There was nothing he was going to be able to do about that. But I saw some other, he tackled well. I thought you saw him you felt like he was flying around a little bit out there. Like you saw bursts and you saw some flashes from him. And you're like, oh, that's a nice tackle. You just don't see any of that from Justin Broiles.
And I know I've clarified on Twitter and on the message board, but for anyone who still believes that he lost his redshirt season, he did not. Woody Washington was credited with a tackle in Bedlam that should have went to A.D. Miller on special teams. Woody Washington did not play against the Pokes, but the official stat line, even OU's official stats, had him with 4 games heading into Saturday, when in fact it was 3, so Saturday was his 4th. Bookie did not cost Woody a redshirt season. That would have been an incredibly bizarre, odd situation to try to talk about had that been the case. So Woody will be a redshirt freshman in 2020.
So, I would just say this. I mean, I think people that are out there that are so down, and, we saw plenty of this on Twitter, and it's still going on in our message boards. Even though I said that it was LSU slapped OU's defense 2 years into the past, they've still made strides. They're still headed in a positive direction. They're still, it's still the team that, even though it doesn't, especially, the way the Big 12 games have gone so far, it hasn't been good. Notre Dame just
I don't know if the conference is going to win. I don't think the conference is going to win a bowl game.
Baylor, your only hope at this point.
And is Brewer playing?
Yeah, he's been practicing.
Did he finally practice?
I don't know if he's playing.
Okay.
But,
Kansas State Navy is the only one maybe.
But, I mean, the Big 12, it's not looking like it was a strong year. And I know that you have to be better. But, I mean, they were the last defense in this shitty conference 2 years ago. And they statistically were number 1. They have made, and it's not even about statistics. You saw a team this year that flew to the football, that gang tackled. You saw Kenneth Murray get a lot better under Brian Odom. You saw tackles for losses. You saw, LSU said this, they saw a defense that played with a lot of violence. And you did see that with your, just the eye test told you that defense was a lot more aggressive, that they flew around to the football, that it wasn't just one guy dependent on making a tackle like it was under Mike Stoops. So they've made progress. They are better. They have to recruit better. They have to get more talent in the program, which we knew. I mean, we knew that going in. It didn't become completely evident until they were missing a couple of guys, and then they played the best team that they played all year offensively. So it's not all doom and gloom. It's not, well, now I will say, yes, the perception, the narrative is going to be there, and you're going to have to overcome that by winning a national championship. That's the point that you're at now as a program. Oklahoma is always going to be seen as the team that can't get it done until they get it done. They just are. You're shackled with that reputation now.
Yeah, but it still felt weird hearing it from Texas recruits and Arkansas recruits and things like that. That was a weird moment.
It was their opportunity to take a shot at OU, in a way.
Because they can't beat them on the field.
It is what it is. Yeah, they wish that, they what?
Because they can't do it on the field.
Yeah. In a way, yeah. But the OU's done this to themselves. Yeah. They've done this to themselves as far as, they've now gone into the fact of the matter is they've gotten into the college football playoff 4 times. 3 times they've gotten their ass kicked.
Yeah, it's we keep talking about, look in the mirror moments. We did
away from that
a lot with the defense last year. But it's like this is just another step. There's another step left to take for this program and for the players in it. And they have to look in the mirror and realize that you have made yourselves into a punchline. And it's because it's not really fair because they've had more success than most people. Anyone else in the Big 12 is jealous of them, and they love seeing them get their ass kicked because they're jealous. But they haven't been there, and you have. So you've accomplished a lot. You've won the Big 12 5 years in a row, but there's another step for you to take, and it's not all the players' fault. The coaches have to recruit better. They have to develop better. They've been let down in the recruiting department on defense by everyone who's coached there, except for maybe Calvin Thibodeau. You can give him a pass because defensive line's pretty good. At least it was this year. But it's something that you hope fuels those kids in that team because it's not going away, like you said.
It'll be interesting to see what this 2020 team is made of, and not made of, I guess, but just in a way of they lose a lot of that seniority mentorship, and even guys like a Kenneth Murray that, for all intents and purposes, I think everybody believes he's going to declare for the NFL
Yeah,
draft.
we haven't even talked about people declaring and all that stuff, which is coming now.
Bob and I have been talking about it a little bit this morning. Kenneth Murray, yes.
CeeDee Lamb, obviously.
Obviously.
Yeah. Creed Humphrey?
I think that's a legitimate 50-50. He was asked after the game, obviously not going to say yes or no either way. Kennedy Brooks is a name that is kind of emerging as possibly someone that could enter. Is that what you're saying, Bob?
Just when you had like Caleb Kelly just say flat out, I'm coming back, and Kennedy Brooks saying, I really just want to spend time with my team and my family, ringed a little differently because I don't think anyone really considered him as a legitimate possibility, like maybe a fringe guy. But if you're a fringe guy, sometimes you can just squash it by saying, I'm coming back. And he took the opportunity last night to do the opposite of that, to leave it lingering out there.
I think with running backs, it's just a completely different ball game because running backs, they're going to get their shot. Even if he doesn't get drafted and a free agent, you want to get out there because you don't have a long football life. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And with all the crap that he's been through, maybe he just wants to get the hell away from college.
That's what I've said too.
Wouldn't blame the guy one bit.
But how Lincoln phrased it this morning is that we have a lot of experience in that room still. So that tells me either Brooks or Trey Sermon have already let Lincoln know they are coming back. Because I think they might be in a little bit of a panic mode if they knew that both
I
of
think
them
Trey
were
Sermon
leaving.
should come back. I mean, I think somebody is going to either draft or sign Kennedy Brooks as a free agent. He'll get his shot with a team. I think Trey Sermon kind of has some work left. He didn't have a particularly great year, and then he got hurt. And I think he's a much better back than he's shown this last year. I mean, he's been a better back younger than he has been this last year.
And Marcus Major told me last night that he will be ready for spring. You're bringing in Seth McGowan. Something that happened right before kickoff. Corey Wren mentioned OU in his top 5. He's a speed burner, just speed for days that they're looking to try to bring in for an official visit in January. He only has one left. So whatever one he makes is it's pretty much going to be the school that he ends up picking. So they're restock the room. They feel confident with what's there. And I know Pledger didn't get a lot of touches, wasn't nearly the impact guy as maybe could have been, but he finally did score his first career touchdown, even if no one remembers it.
I think a lot of people quit watching that game.
How hard was it to still watch it, Kerry?
It wasn't hard.
You're not there live in person. You didn't. You have options. You could have walked away.
Well, we were recording it back here for the first half, and then Eddie was like, smartly like, should I go turn off? Because like the machine is just like burning through bandwidth to send it back here. I'm like, yeah, let's just forget about it. Which I.
Yeah, about that.
So, no, but I mean, look, I want to tell you guys how much I appreciated your hard work this week. It was, I don't know why, but this week, just leading up to it, it seemed more grueling than a normal bowl game, and I don't know exactly why. I think it's because I was stressed out about all the video stuff we were doing, trying to get that up and running and going and looking good, and I wasn't getting a lot of sleep, and you're back here doing radio and stuff, so. You guys really made my life easier, and I know the content was fantastic all week long. Our traffic was through the roof. So you guys did a great job out there. I just wanted to say that publicly for all to hear. Kudos from the boss.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
Appreciate it. I thought it was a good week. I know that I know the season didn't end a lot how people wanted to, but hey, listen, look at it this way. You can finally hear me say that I hated the Jalen Hurts experience. So,
yeah, it wasn't pleasant for the media for sure. Not exactly fun going to a press conference every week with the face of the team getting.
I thought it was just interesting,
answers.
And we can maybe go real behind the curtain on Wednesday when we do the unofficial 40, but it just. I guess there's no other way to say this. Without knowing the behind-the-scenes stuff, I thought CeeDee Lamb and Charleston Rambo absolutely hated Jalen Hurts. That was just my read on the situation. Now,
I did get a text from someone on the sideline yesterday that said, right now, CeeDee Lamb wants to kill Jalen Hurts.
Second series, Kerry. CeeDee Lamb is wide open on the left side of the field.
Mm-hmm.
Has his hands up, literally, kind of in a little league type thing. Like, throw it to me. I'm f***ing standing here, wide open. Nobody within 15 yards of me. And Hurts throws it out of bounds to the right side because he never even looked at it.
Yeah.
How do you not look at your best wide receiver?
It's just pressure. I mean, he's not great with pressure. He hasn't been all season. Just dropping back. And you know what they started going into on the broadcast yesterday? They're like, here's a really interesting thing someone told me about Jalen Hurts' NFL prospects is that maybe look for him to be drafted by the Baltimore Ravens to serve as Lamar Jackson's backup. And I was just thinking, he is not Lamar Jackson. He is so far from Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, literally one of the most electric athletes that has ever played the game.
I thought it kind of seemed to me like, and from the little bit that I saw in the second half when I went into the video workroom, I thought Todd Blackledge and what's the other guy's name?
McDonough.
Sean McDonough. I thought they were awful last night.
It was just that you had the whole B team element to it.
They were surprised about travel football.
Yes, I saw that part. Yeah.
Like what?
Well, it was Blackledge. He was like, "How are you having a travel team when you're in the 6th and the 7th and the 8th grade?"
Strange.
Like, did you just wake up from were you trapped in ice? Are you Encino Man?
Just very strange.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it was okay. I mean, I like Blackledge, generally, but that was a very odd exchange. That was an Olds moment for Todd Blackledge.
Yeah.
For sure. All right. Well,
it was an interesting season.
Do you want me to call Ed Eskridge and see if he'll send a Lexus for you?
Well, I'm getting to the point now where we'd be in like the 2:00 range, and I might as well just fly back now.
Yeah, I'm sorry I stranded you guys for a day. I thought, they got museums and stuff. You can go do something.
Yeah, probably just watching football.
I'm probably going to work. I'm probably going to type so that when I get home, doesn't matter what I do, I'm on baby duty. There's no excuse in the world I can have for missing six days with the baby and then come home and say, nope, sorry.
Stop saying
can't
things
do
like this in public. We don't want people to know how whipped you are, all right?
No, that's anybody, though. You can't go on vacation for a long time with a baby.
No, she convinced you that's anybody. No, that's not true.
That's other people, but I'm not naming names. There's others.
Other people that work in the same industry?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. I know who you're talking. So, yeah, thanks to everybody for listening. Thanks to Ed Eskridge also for being a great part of the podcast and sponsoring us all season long. Make sure eskridgelexus.com, go check them out, and let them know that you're a scooper, that you listen to the pod, or you're a subscriber to the website, or you're a new live stream watcher, and they'll take care of you. So appreciate him loaning us cars throughout the year for all our trips. So just a great supporter of the podcast, and really happy to have him on board for a second year in a row. So eskridgelexus.com, go check them out as well. So thank you, Eddie. Thank you, Bob. Safe travels back. I'm sure Bob has already got you checked in for your flight tomorrow. But if not, I'm sure
he's
just
checked
counting
in
down the
his
minutes.
flight, and I'm checked into my flight. We're on different flights.
Oh, you are? Man, I am a cheap bastard.
I'm at 7 in the morning, and Eddie's like at noon.
Oh, I think I did that because if you wanted to do your radio show.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, and I appreciate that.
Okay.
That's the plan.
Okay, good deal. All right, so, I was being a good boss. So, anyway, thank you guys for your hard work this week. Thanks for everybody for listening. I'm sorry about the Sooners. Please don't leave us. Please stay subscribe to the website.
Sorry for giving you hope the last two podcasts.
Sorry for making it out like, you had a chance at all. It was a mistake on my part. Anyway, thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next time on the Eskridge Lexus Postgame Podcast.